Welcome back. Thank you so much for clicking on today's third podcast. So much to say, but I just hope today's podcast is also going to be an interesting one. But before I start off with anything, I just want to say God is good. God is amazing. We hear people say that a lot, but I feel like a lot of people say that when times are good, but I say that even when times are bad. Like, we're living in hard times right now, so during these times is when people forget about God, and people they just forget. So I don't want to get too much into faith and religion, because I'm not saying I'm the most perfect person, but I do find my faith, or being Muslim, very important identity of mine. And sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me today, but I feel like in today's society we always forget about our roots, and that's what a lot of my poetry comes back down to, representing where you're coming from. And it has a lot of, I just find it really inspiring where everybody comes from. There's a hidden meaning behind every place, every part of the world, and I just find it amazing. So today's my first, day making a Google document, or I'm trying to be a little more organized and just trying to find more value in what I'm talking about. So today's topic or podcast is going to be about injustice, something that I talk about a lot in my videos, something that I cannot talk about enough, because everywhere you can see some type of form of injustice. However, we can talk a lot about injustice, but specifically I think I'm just going to be narrowing it down just to Oakland, a very narrow discussion about what I've seen in Oakland. So I just feel like it's a really good time to bring it up during this time of the world, because I feel like we've been very silent, although we do see a lot of people speaking up against bad stuff that's been going on, but I just feel like we haven't been seeing much improvement. So I only can say so much about that. And I just made a bullet point where I was just saying, why is it powerful for multiple people to come together to fight injustice? Because I feel like a lot of times it's just one person trying to do the job, or we try to rely on one branch of the government, or we try to rely on one side of politics, when in reality power comes back down to the people. So I love saying that, power down to the people, or power to the people. So before I get to my next segment of my podcast, I just want to show a short clip of my poem that kind of highlights what I'm talking about. It's titled Loyalty Thicker Than Blood. So I'm about to play it right now. Hope you guys like it. And I'm about to play it right now. Thank you.
In the heat of Arabian desert, and in the cold of Arctic weather, who is the one worthy of all common measure? The one who brings us closer to our hearts,
MK,
so we can find what it is inside truly that we should treasure. Loyalty is thicker than blood, by any means and measure. So praises be to him who brings along peace when we can feel the high pressure, the one who keeps tabs on our aggressors.
Freedom, 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 freedom. Louder, louder, freedom, freedom. What do we want now? Freedom, freedom, freedom.
And promise us elevation if we advocate against the oppressors. Like the echo of an old time song, in an invisible place that we all belong, underneath the starlight so strong. Learning from our mistakes and promising him our loyalty, because in his hands is where we've always belonged. In the laughter and the tears we shed, those who were here and now we cope over them being dead. Like the dreams that we always tread, and that spiritual connection that we always fed. His loyalty is the purest and finest thread. So here I pray for a day where we can put the guns down and truly break bread. you so much for watching that. I really hope that it highlighted exactly what I meant by like just the power, just how it looks when people come together, you know, all races, all ages. You know, growing up, like elementary school, middle school, high school, college, we were just taught this stuff, you know. We were taught a lot about slavery and a lot about the oppression, you know, that we have caused upon other nations. However, like one of the most beautiful aspects of America is how we do come together, you know, the power of the voice, and you know how we can change everything. And I remember my first poem like ever performing at Merritt College. They were like, well, what's your poet nickname? I didn't have one. I just said my name is Edham, you know, like just my name. They're like, no, you don't have a nickname? And I literally thought in my head, I was like, dang, this is really hard. I didn't have a nickname. Literally everybody called me Hammy. It's really weird. It's a really weird nickname. I was like, I'm no way I'm gonna tell them my nickname Hammy. That's what everybody called me in school, and I hated it. I literally hated it. Everyone called me like add ham to the sandwich, add ham to the eggs, all that good stuff. So at that moment, I'm like, you know what? Voice is power. And then from that day, everything changed. So moving on to my next segment about injustice. Bullet point was just talking about how deadly we look together, like how it just makes us look unified as a people. I feel like a lot of times we don't really value just the visual of how people look when we all come together for a certain cause. And that's what I wanted to highlight really bad in this whole podcast today, is when people to come together. It's amazing. So I'm gonna give some statistics. I tried to not make it as biased as possible. Like I try to really grab some good information. But according to the NPR, which is the National Public Radio of the United States, so many claim that this source is toward the left wing instead of the right. However, I just highlighted what I thought was interesting, and it was specifically about Oakland. So it was a graph that they showed us, but before I get to the graph, it was basically talking about how it's like 2022. A lot of people who were murdered were not really getting, I guess, justice, or they felt that they weren't being, like they just felt like there was no importance like with their case, and they felt like they were being ignored. But I'm pretty sure that's not how it is. Like I'm pretty sure, like, you know, the police don't just sit there and like no, I'm not gonna help. I'm pretty sure it's just the crime could be really bad. I don't know, it could be anything, but it's just a lot of tension right now with the people and the police. Like with the whole defund the police in the beginning, I didn't know what was going on when COVID happened. I just stood and observed, you know, and I was just praying for the best, and I was just writing poetry. And yeah, it was just, I'm not saying I saw this coming, but with the whole defund the police and the tension with all that, I'm like, is this a side effect or just a byproduct of that? So all I can do is just observe and ask questions. But in the NPR, in the article, it was a quote, or someone said that they haven't heard any word about their cousin who was killed, and his cousin was named Artugal, sorry if I don't pronounce it right, Anabo Jr. He was shot outside the popular Filipino fast food restaurant Lucky 37 in East Oakland, California on May 18, 2022. And his cousin said it's still emotional every day coming in here, you know, while he was like nodding and walking down the street where his cousin was killed. So I just felt that was really unfortunate. I didn't want to get into too much statistics, but I just wanted to highlight that. And also, according to the San Francisco Chronicle, which was titled "Most Oakland Homicides Go Unsolved, Why Don't Officials Have a Plan to Fix It?" And the quotation that I grabbed from there was, "Oakland police have struggled to solve most killings for a generation. Could the department's woes be making the city's violence worse?" By Joshua Sharp and Susie Nielsen. So it just, again, if you just look at how it's like a battle between those who are supposed to bring justice and those who want justice. So just find it really interesting nowadays how we grasp this concept. How do we keep people accountable, you know? Like, it's really interesting. So there were some graphs that they also included. Like, I would show you guys, but I don't want to bore y'all, and like it gets, numbers is too much. But I was just grabbing what I thought, like I said, was interesting for today's podcast. So these graphs was is like, where did homicides happen in Oakland in 2022 and how many cases were solved? So 28 cases happened in downtown or West Oakland, and I used to work in downtown Oakland, the Courtyard Marriott. It's really tense. I am not lying to you. I've seen people, like, I'm not gonna go into what I've seen, but downtown Oakland, it is a really, really, really rough area, but it's very beautiful with the diversity there and Chinatown, and I can't describe to you guys how beautiful it is when there's harmony in that area. And furthermore, within those 28 cases, only 12 has been solved. So just like sad to think about the families who have to live and cope with their loved ones being murdered and not getting any justice for it. And so moving on to Fruitvale and Central Oakland in 2022 of May, 33 homicides and only 9 have been solved. And then East Oakland, Nolan Park, 32 cases and only 7 have been solved. East Oakland, Mills and Leona, 20 cases and only 3 have been solved. North Oakland and Uptown, 6 cases and 0 have been solved. So this is just a little statistic of just recently, 2022. Numbers always change, and people are always being lives are always being taken away. So now, like, this can always change. But it's just really sad to really think about that. Just think about it, how many cases have been unsolved. And in the other graph that I have here was titled "The Oakland Homicide Victims by Race," because a lot of times people want to point fingers and say, oh, it's dumb, it's dumb, it's dumb, so on and so on. So I just thought maybe it would be interesting to see the statistics of the victims by race. So according to 2022 Oakland Police Department, 3% were Asian, 65% Black or African American, 25% Hispanic/Latino, 3% other, and 3% white. So find that really interesting, because when we look at that, it talks itself, So I just really hope that anyone who's lost any family members recently, may you guys cope. I've seen a lot of people lives been taken away recently, I would love to say names, but I just don't know, out of respect. But I just really hope that we can be better as a nation, and really change how we are individually, like, and how we see each other. Because I feel like justice starts in the mind. I could be wrong, but like, if I see someone and I'm really upset with that person, instead of seeing him as an enemy, in my mind, I can just see him as a brother at the end of the day. Like, the creator who created him created me as well. So if I hurt him, I'm hurting myself. Favorite scene from Rush Hour: I'm you, you and me. Who's you? Like that whole Chris Tucker. I don't know if it was just interesting. Like that whole scene, like it really does show us that like we are each other. But yeah, I'm getting to the end of my podcast, but I really hope today was like a little bump, I guess you can say. But there is one more video I want to show you guys before I let you guys go, and then once the video is done, I'll come back and wrap it up. But before I show you guys that video, if you're still watching, thank you so much, seriously, and may God give you everything you've ever asked for, and may He give you everything you haven't even asked for that you don't even know that's good for you. May He give it to you, like, I care more about the people watching this than I care about myself. Like, I really mean that. And I don't know if my friends and family can vouch for me. Like, I'm not saying I'm the most selfless person, but I really do care about every single individual. That's just what I was taught, in my faith. Although people think that Muslims were very extreme with our religion and we don't like these type of people and whatnot, at the end of the day, what I was taught in my religion is just to love. And there's a right and wrong, of course. There's certain boundaries that we're not supposed to cross, like we're not supposed to break some laws of the universe. So yeah, there's laws to everything. But at the end of the day, I feel like every individual, every person was created by God, you know? So there's a purpose of that creation. So God sees a potential in every single person that he created. Like, why else would you be here? Some people are like, nah, it was just my parents. They wanted to have children. But why were you chosen? You know, like, out of all the billions and billions of souls, you were chosen to be here. So I just feel like we don't know what our purpose is, but there's a purpose for every single person. And when it happens, when you find out what your purpose is, it's gonna be amazing. So I'm gonna show this clip right now before I come back and do a conclusion. So I hope you guys will like this next video, and be right back.
Thousands of demonstrators opposed to the Vietnam War assembled in the nation's capital for a mass protest. For the most part orderly, minor scuffles did occur between the demonstrators and hecklers. A 3-hour parade takes the demonstrators across the Potomac on their way to the Pentagon. The crowd, estimated at about 50,000 persons, was a loose confederation of some 150 groups and included adults, students, even children. It is at the Pentagon where the first test of strength comes. Military police contain the crowd, but clashes soon break out. Federal marshals arrest several who attempt to break through the protective line. Reinforcing the marshals, a second wave of MPs with fixed bayonets in scabbards move into position. Some 400 demonstrators are arrested, 2 soldiers are injured, and tear gas is used. 6 break into a Pentagon side door, but are quickly apprehended in the day-long disturbance. The next day, campfires are lighted to hold off the autumn chill. The same weekend saw nationwide demonstrations supporting American GIs in Vietnam. The Pentagon protest was less violent in its second day of sitting in. The 2-day protest ends with over 600 arrested and the widespread opinion that the demonstration made everyone a loser.
All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for watching that and, you know, being at the end of my video, on my podcast today. That video, I just had to include it just because it just shows that we have the capability of all coming together again and literally trying to put a stop to something that we don't like, you know? And I can't imagine like being the age I am right now during those times, during the Vietnam War, when, you know, brothers and sisters were, you know, fighting and people just dying. And like I said, I understand that's war, you know, we gotta do what we gotta do. I don't, at the end of the day, I don't condone war. Like, I just don't like war at all. Growing up as a kid, I used to watch videos of the wars in Iraq and the war in like Syria and every country. Like, just growing up, I just seen so much war. Like, I didn't really grow up seeing like people coming together. I just saw a lot of destruction growing up. So it kind of like, I don't know, just seeing stuff that I wasn't supposed to see brought a lot of trauma. Not to a point where I was like like hurting myself like mentally, but I just hated seeing people suffer. I really hated people, like, I just hate seeing human suffering. And I just hope with the end of today's podcast, we all can leave here just even if we feel that we can't stop war. Like, I know it's a hard thing to do. Who can stop war? We can't just snap our fingers, right? But when we pray and when we just talk about it and when we bring in awareness, God does the rest. I'm a strong believer that God has the capability of fixing all of our issues. Every single thing that you can think about. Like, he has the ability to fix whatever he wants to fix, you know? To be and it shall become. But as human beings, he wants us to take those steps forward. Like, he wants us to be human. You know, not just people, not just a person. He wants to be a human. Because being human means to listen and to find wisdom and to be better than we were yesterday. And I'm not saying like battle with who you are, like, oh, I don't like the way I am, I'm gonna beat myself over it. But I always try to become my greatest version. Like, I'm always trying to find motivation, and I'm always trying to pass that motivation to other people. So that's just like how I'm becoming my best version. It's just like trying to motivate people and trying to teach people that life is not black and white. It's not just black and white. There's so much in between that, again, we don't see. And the stuff that we don't see is what makes us who we are. And that's why they say you are who you think you are. So let's start thinking better about ourselves and start being there for those who we love, you know? We shouldn't take family for granted, and we shouldn't take humanity for granted. So I'm ending my podcast here. I hope you guys valued today's mini podcast. And yeah, before I end every podcast, I just really hope that you, or just everybody who's watching, just don't stop grinding. Like tomorrow's not guaranteed, you know? We're never promised tomorrow. Although we think we have so many days ahead of us, we don't know if our life will be cut short. Even at this very moment, I can end this discussion, and you can, any one of us, at any time, at any second. So I pray that we all stay safe and we all elevate in a way that is prosperous and healthy for our life and for our family. So thank you so much again for being here. And I hope, like I said, with each podcast, I'm gonna be bumping it up. I know I didn't give that much statistics today, but I'm trying to, like, you know, if y'all can see, I'm trying to get a little Google Doc stuff. I'm trying to learn the rules and regulations of YouTube guidelines, because I want to start, like, not saying doing reaction videos, but I want to start grabbing other people's, like, not saying their content, but I want to, like, react to stuff that we see, you know? Like, there's so many topics being brought up today, and I want to talk about it, but I just don't want to get hit with copyright or anything like that, you know? So all right, thank you guys again. Hope you guys have a beautiful day or night. You know, continue using that voice, even if the voice is inside, you know, just talk to that voice and know that God gave you that voice for a reason. If you have the ability to speak, you are blessed. And if you have the ability to see, you are blessed. Seriously, like, we have so much that we just take for granted, and I hope we have an attitude of gratitude from now on. So all right, that's it, no more. Have a good one, and thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time. All right, have a good one, everybody.